In this class, we use the MLA citation system for documenting research. And I think that one of the things that makes that tricky, it's not a difficult documentation system or citation system, but what makes it tricky is that a lot of my students are in the process of learning or have recently learned how to use the APA system of citation, and they're kind of similar. So a lot of those elements are getting confused, and I can see why. So I wanted to make a short little presentation on what some of the main differences are between them. And the first thing you need to know about them is, that APA is used for sciences and social sciences, and MLA is used for humanities, especially English classes. And to just kind of reflect on the differences between what kind of papers you write in each of those classes, especially as an undergraduate. For science classes, it's probably going to be more, I'm guessing, more informational, more you just presenting the research that you found, versus in an English class where it's all about you, the writer, are presenting your thoughts, your ideas, your argument, and you're using your research sources to bolster, support, illustrate, add interest to your argument. And so it's wildly different types of papers, and for that reason there's a big difference in signal phrases. So for an APA paper, it may not be, I gather, it may not be that important to always use signal phrases, or as they're called a narrative citation, which looks like this. Roman et al. 2010 reported that social factors are. It may not be as important to be using that narrative citation in APA as it is for MLA. It's very important to use a signal phrase, and that's because in that paper that you're using APA for, you're probably using a lot of the same types of sources. Like it's a lot of like peer-reviewed science articles, and so you don't really need to introduce them all the time, I guess. And also, because you're not presenting, your this original argument and your thoughts as much, you don't need to transition from these are my ideas into here's the ideas of someone else, or here now I am presenting my research. Like an MLA, like you really need to, because it's mainly you expressing your ideas, your argument, and you're presenting your research. You need a transition between what you're saying and the research that you're presenting. And also for an English paper, you could be using, depending on the paper, you could be using all different kinds of sources. For example, my English 1020 course, where students are writing a term paper, you're using a lot of different types of sources because I'm asking you to appeal to help readers connect to your argument by appealing to their logic and their reasoning, and also their emotions, their humor, their humanity. And to do that, you might be using a peer-reviewed science article, a magazine article, a newspaper article, literature, a poem, a TikTok video, a photograph. You might be using a lot of different types of sources. So because you're transitioning between your ideas and someone else's, and also because you're using a lot of different types of sources, that signal phrase plays a very important role in helping your reader understand what's going on in the paper. This is what an MLA signal phrase would sound like. As the great American novelist Toni Morrison said, like that. Notice that in the APA, the date is given. The date is very important for an APA paper because in the sciences, information is always improving. So you want your information to be timely. So that date's very important. But like in English class, the date might be important or might not. If I'm quoting William Shakespeare or something, it really doesn't matter what century he wrote that in, or what year the book that I'm reading was published in so much, because that sonnet doesn't gain or lose value over time. So that's probably the first and in my mind the biggest, most important difference, is that for MLA it really is important to use those signal phrases, whereas APA might be less important, and they also look different anyway. And then parenthetical citations look different in APA and MLA. So for APA, if you don't use the narrative citation, you need to use the parenthetical citation, and then it's author, comma, date, comma, page number, if the page number is relevant. So it would look this way. Whereas for MLA, for MLA, you're not presenting the date, and you don't use any commas. And the two pieces of information that you're going to be using would be the author's last name and the page number. If there's no page number, then you simply use the author's last name. And if you've already given the author's last name and the signal phrase, then you don't use a parenthetical citation unless you need to use the page, give a page number if there is a page number to give. So it looks like this or like this. So you can see they look a little bit different, and and then the other big difference would be the in citation. For APA, it's called references. For MLA, it's called works cited. And APA, they're listed chronologically. Once again, that date is so important in APA, whereas for MLA, they're listed alphabetically. And you can see they are formatted differently. And those are the main differences that I wanted to discuss with you today. And I will also post this infographic on Canvas so you can see it on your own as well. So that's the main things. The biggest one being those signal phrases. But signal phrases being quite important in MLA and perhaps less important with APA. And that's all I have to say about that.